Welcome back to All Things LaToya, where I keep it real with you guys. So I'm back with another video, and as you can tell from the title, this is kind of going to be an emotional one. I am going to do my best to not cry, but before I get into the story, I want to thank you guys for joining me again, tuning in for another video. Thank you for all your love and support. If you're not a subscriber, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and join the family. And everyone who's already subscribed, thank you so much again. So, yes, I recently found out I was pregnant, and I took a pregnancy test on December 19th. And I found out I was pregnant. So, you know, I was very excited. If you are not new to the channel, you may have seen a previous video where I had a miscarriage, and that was back in 2017. I found I was pregnant at the and ended up having an actual miscarriage at the beginning of 2017. It's actually right around my anniversary, for my husband and I's anniversary, so that was pretty emotional as well. So here, moving forward, 2018, not necessarily trying to get pregnant, but not really doing anything to prevent it. So if it happens, it happens. I'm married. It's not a big deal. So I took a pregnancy test on the 19th, and found out I was pregnant. I took multiple pregnancy tests, because the first one that I took, the line was one of the lines was really clear and the other one was very faint, and I was like, not sure. So I went online. I was like, okay, so this is normal. If you see it a little bit, it normally means you're pregnant. Sent it to my mom, asked her about it. She agreed. So then I took several tests after that, multiple tests. I literally probably took about 15 tests. I went and bought digital tests and just all kinds of stuff. So I just wanted to make sure. Now, before I actually get into what happened with me, I just kind of want to give you guys some background on what an ectopic pregnancy is. I have some notes, so let me just get those because I want to give y'all some information just in case you're not familiar with it, because I wasn't. So what is an ectopic pregnancy? It's basically when the fertilized egg implants itself in some other place other than the uterus, and of course the fallopian tubes. So ectopic pregnancies are normally referred to as tubal pregnancies as well. So let's see, why does it happen? From the research that I've done, there's no reason. There can be factors that can cause it, that can, be the reason why it may happen to you. If you've had certain things like an infection in your fallopian tubes, and they may be inflamed and things like that, or if you've had a previous surgery. Just had a surgery in May. Also another video, and these videos, I'll make sure I put them down in the description. I may even link them somewhere here in the video, but nevertheless they'll be in the description for you guys so you can check those out. But yes, I did have an abdominal myomectomy because I had 20 fibroids and I had those removed. So I had that surgery in May, on May 5th, 2 days before my birthday. So I would assume, this may have been one of the factors that maybe why this happened to me. The scar tissue. So an abdominal myomectomy is just basically a C-section. Pop your uterus out, get all the fibroids out, sew it up, put it back in, sew you up. So let's see, what else? Oh, also, if your fallopian tubes are abnormally shaped, that can also be a reason why it would happen. So if you're pregnant, some of the signs that they say: sharp stabbing, pain in your shoulders, or just like a localized pain on one side of the body or the abdominal area, dizziness, weakness, feeling like you're gonna faint, vaginal bleeding. Let's see. And it also says that ectopic pregnancies are not, they're normally not able to be detected. They're just suspected, because what happens is they go in, they look at your uterus. Now we know you're pregnant because your hormone levels are like rising, your ACG and progesterone, all those things are rising. Did I say that right? Progesterone? I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so those are rising, so we know you're pregnant, okay? But they go in there, they look at your uterus, and there's not a baby there. And for me personally, I'll get to that in a second. I'll tell you all that in a second. Anyway, so ways to correct an ectopic pregnancy. Surgery, which is kind of when you let it go too far, or it hasn't been suspected soon enough. So surgery would be one of the ways, and most of the time, from my understanding, they would remove the actual fallopian tube. And it's possible to, still get pregnant, without both fallopian tubes. I met someone recently who actually had hers removed, and, she's pregnant now. So just, it's something that can happen if you let it go too far. On the other hand, if it's suspected early enough, they can provide you with medicine. And as much as people don't want to hear it, or as much as I hate to hear it, you have to terminate the birth, basically. I do not believe in abortion at all. But in a situation that can be life-threatening, because normally with the ectopic pregnancies, by anywhere between the 6th and the 16th week of the pregnancy, sorry, y'all, I'm just getting a little teary-eyed. Anywhere between the 6th week and the 16th week of the pregnancy. Yeah, so anywhere between the 6th and the 16th week of the pregnancy, you stand the chance of basically your fallopian tube rupturing. And that's because there's something in there that shouldn't be there, and it's growing in there, and your fallopian tube ruptures, and then internal bleeding starts, and it just becomes completely life-threatening. So when it's suspected early enough, they can provide you with the medicine to go ahead and terminate the birth, basically. So the medicine, let's see. So yes, the drug is called methotrexate, and it's an immunosuppressive drug and chemotherapy. So they actually provide this drug to cancer patients, but they also, it's different cancers of the blood, cancers of the neck, the head, the lungs, the breast cancer, and it can also treat rheumatoid arthritis. So yeah, it's a pretty intense drug. When you take it, they give you 2 shots, and yeah, they kind of sting, and you normally for like a whole week, you have to stay away from like hot and spicy foods, citrus foods. You're unable to drink, of course, no sex, lots of restrictions that go along with it. So there's a whole lot of stuff that can happen, you being nauseous, vomiting, dizziness. So they suggest for you to go home and lay down. Also, there can be some vaginal bleeding. So I just kind of wanted to give you guys a little overview of what an ectopic pregnancy is, if you're unaware of it. If it's something that you think you may be having some symptoms of, definitely, go to your OBGYN and let them check you out. So my story, back to it. So as I stated, found out I was pregnant, and my levels were not very high. They were rising, but they weren't not rising accordingly. That's the word that they use. So they were rising, but they were not significant. I'll just kind of go from the last time I was at the doctor. I think my HCG was at 146, 147, and I had been taking like some progesterone cream to help that, and I think that was at I can't even remember the number, but apparently it wasn't high enough. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe it's just too early in the birth. You know, maybe they're wrong. And so before yesterday, because that's when I went to the doctor about a week ago, I was just having like a weird pain, you know. I always have pains because I've had fibroids for like the last 5 years. So I am used to having little aches and pains in my abdominal area, my stomach area, on like the side that I ovulate off of, just all kinds of weird stuff, because when you have fibroids, it just messes with everything. So I was kind of used to that. So I didn't want to be, you know, just dramatic, as people call me sometimes. But whatever, you know your body. Let me just say that. I know my body, and I'm definitely in tune with my body. So I know when I'm having a pain, and I'm having a pain, you know. But in this situation, because of what they had already told me about the ectopic pregnancy, I had this little nagging pain in my leg, and I was like, ugh, I'll just go. So I go to the hospital. They do a transvaginal ultrasound. They do a regular ultrasound. They find nothing abnormal. Now, you know, I took this as good news, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, they're not, you know, OBGYNs, so maybe they're not looking for the same things. Anyway, I take that back to the doctor. Nevertheless, he's just like, your numbers are not where they're supposed to be. Now, granted, this pregnancy is so much different. And I'll tell you why I'm still saying is so different, because I'll tell you why I said it that way, because it's not yet over. So this current pregnancy is different from the previous pregnancy, because the previous pregnancy back in 2016, it basically aborted itself. My body rejected the pregnancy, and, you know, I miscarried. This one, I just really felt pregnant, you know? Like the morning sickness and the little aches and the pains, and it's hard because you start like you start dreaming about like your baby, and it made it even worse because people at work were like, oh, we know you're pregnant, Toya. And I just, you know, I didn't want to say anything to anybody, because, you know, you kind of keep it quiet for the first trimester because you just don't know what's going to happen. And everybody was like, oh, yeah, you're pregnant. Make sure you take care of our baby. Make sure she's okay. And they kept labeling it as a little girl. Well, nobody really knew, but me and my husband want a little girl. That's what we want. And, well, at least as our first child. And, you know, and so you just start dreaming and creating. And in the back of my mind, I'm a believer, I'm a Christian, and you know, I'm believing God for my baby. I'm like, God, I'm not gonna believe what they're saying. You know, I know you can create a miracle, and, you know, hopefully this doesn't offend anybody, but I am a believer, and I have seen miracles, and I know tons of people who are listening to me who can agree with me. They've seen miracles. You've heard of them. So it's not far-fetched for me, and I know it's possible. So yeah, that's just what I was standing on. Me, my mom, some of my friends, we were all just praying and interceding and just keeping me lifted up. So when we go to the doctor yesterday, you know, I got all dressed up. You know, I was just expecting good news. You know, I've always been a person of faith, even since I was a little girl. You know, and my faith is still strong. I have to say, this is hard. This is very, very hard. And you know, it makes you kind of sometimes just try to, you know, want to question things. Let me just say that, want to question things. But I stand firm in my faith, and I don't waver in that. But I am going to say this is probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to deal with. So we go to the doctor. He checks me, gives me the numbers, and says, hey, you know, here are your options. this is what I'm going to suggest that you do. He, you know, my husband's there, so he kind of gives us the rundown. You got surgery, you got the medicine that you can take. And he's like, I suggest, you know, the medicine, you know, it's still early in pregnancy. He was like, but if you wait any longer, he's like, you could, you know, be jeopardizing your life. Now, like I said, I've seen miracles, and I've seen and heard of, you know, God just performing these wonderful things and bringing people out of places where, you know, they were at their wits' end. You know what I mean? So in my mind, this is what I'm thinking, but still listening to what the doctor's saying, not just like, okay, doc, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. It was never a situation like that. So, you know, my husband's ready to do it because he's just a realist. He is. And, you know, there's room for us all in this world. And sometimes we believe a little different, depending on the situation, depending on the severity of the situation. We all will react differently. So, make a long story short, I wanted to give it at least the weekend. And then I even thought about giving it a couple more weeks, when they could actually see something in the uterus. But, you know, that 6-week time frame, 6 weeks to 16 weeks, I would be in that time frame. And I was just so worried that what if I made the wrong decision, you know, by just trying to wait. So initially, I don't do it at all. I'm like, no, I'm not for it. And I'll be completely open with you guys because, like I said, I'm just going to keep it real with you guys. We argued about it back and forth. You know, my husband thought I was crazy. He was like, what are you doing? You're going to jeopardize your life. It's not about the fact that you can't have kids because you can. This is just something that happened. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me. We can always try again. All those things sounded great. But it's just like, you know, when you start to like dream and you start to create this, well, not create, but you just start to imagine and dream of what could be and what is going to be with a child. And I even started looking at names. I started looking at names, and you feel like you're giving up, you know? And I'm not gonna cry. I've been crying about this like for the last day and a half. Actually, I've been crying longer, but you know, the tears of like, what if, like, what am I gonna do? Like, you know, where I was worried, but when, you know, everything just came down to it, I was just in tears, you know, because I just didn't know what to do. And I just felt like I was giving up on my child. And I was just like, I can't do that, you know? Like, I'm 34. Like, everybody else has kids. I don't have any kids. You know what I mean? Not that that matters, but all these things go through your mind. Women who've had children, who've had miscarriages, you guys know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. And so we left. And then I was just like, you know, so, okay. So they said, hey, you know, do you want to do it? And I'm like, no. And then I wait for a little bit at the doctor's office. And then I decided to do it. Crazy thing is, I had to go get the medication from CVS. They sent me with a prescription. They didn't even have it on hand. So I'm thinking like, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. So I go get the medicine and take it back. And I said, I can't do this. I cannot do it. Can you guys keep it for me? I can't do it. I schedule another appointment and everything. And the nurse is super nice. Her name is Jamie. She was super nice and very empathetic. I think she was even crying because she could tell how hurt I was. So I said, you know, let me just schedule an appointment. I scheduled an appointment for the 4th, and then I scheduled it for the 8th, you know, and that was at least 2 weeks out. So I said, I'll just come back. He gave me my little card, and then I went outside. You know, my husband's like, what did you do? And I'm like, I'm not doing it. So, you know, in his mind, he's thinking like, what are you doing? You know, this could be life or death for you. Or in the situation where you just have to get your fallopian tube removed anyway because you wait so long. So I cried. We leave and we're just, you know, going back and forth about it. And then I just finally decided to do it. And every time I think about actually making the decision to do it, it's so hard to swallow and stomach, you know, because who wants to voluntarily give up their pregnancy, give up their baby? Who wants to do that? Who wants to be put in that situation? Nobody wants to be put in that situation, and here I am having to make that choice. I didn't know if I was afraid or was I being brave, or was it a combination of both? Because while we were, you know, when we had left the second time and I decided to turn back around and do it, I mean, I started having like all these different pains, and I was like, what is that? You know what I mean? And like I said, the 6-week time frame is next week, you know, and that's going through my mind. And I just say, okay, let's do it. And I sit in the office and I wait and I just cry, you know. I reached out to one of my friends who's a doula, and basically like midwives, and I was just asking her questions, but you know, there was really nothing that she could do. You know, she's not educated on that end of it, you know what I mean? The whole healthy pregnancy part of it, like, you know, she just doesn't do that. So it wasn't much that she could do. But it was just like me trying to reach out for any last advice or anything like that. So they give me the 2 shots, one in each hip, and the pictures, I'll put the picture down here somewhere. It's just like, I still have like the little band-aid on, but it's 2 shots, and that's pretty much it. I had to wait for like 15 minutes because they wanted to monitor my vitals, make sure I was okay. I started feeling a little dizzy, but I hadn't eaten, so you know, I had to grab something to eat afterwards, but I was okay. Now, the really messed up thing about this is, you're like, okay, it's a termination. We've, you know, it's not a healthy pregnancy. We're gonna do this and that'll be it. Not really, because I'm still pregnant. I'm still pregnant. I am still pregnant, and I'm gonna be pregnant for at least 2 or 3 more weeks, and I have to go in for blood tests 2 or 3 times each week for the next 2 weeks. And she's like, don't be alarmed, your HCG is gonna rise. Like, how messed up is that, right? Like, I'm needing my HCG to rise so that my pregnancy will be a healthy pregnancy. And now that I've decided to terminate it, I go back for blood and now my HCG is rising. Like, how horrible is that? Like, mentally, on a woman who was so hopeful for a healthy pregnancy, you know? So I have to deal with this for the next few weeks, and it's just heartbreaking, you know? And then it's possible it may not even work the first time. I may have to go back for another round of the medication, and it just really sucks, you know? It sucks. I'm sure I'm gonna cry, like, for real when I stop doing this video. It's just so sad. So my heart goes out to all women who miscarry or have to, you know, terminate a birth because it's an unhealthy pregnancy. Like, there's no judgment here. Like, and if you're judging people like that, you definitely shouldn't do that, because you just don't know. You just don't know what people are going through. And you don't know what's at stake. So, yeah. So that is my ectopic pregnancy. I will definitely keep you guys updated and tell you how everything goes. I'm really hoping and praying, as weird as it sounds, is that, you know, I don't have to do another round. I hope that it'll be done soon, because, you know, I still feel pregnant. I still feel pregnant. And I took pregnancy tests, I'm still pregnant. You know, it's just weird. It's just so weird. And yeah, so it's, like I said, it's not yet finished. So, but yeah, I'll keep you guys updated how everything goes. After this is over, I have to wait about 3 months to try to get pregnant again. But, you know, sometimes you just get so tired, you know, and this is emotionally draining for me, because I'm okay 1 minute and then the next minute I'm crying, you know? Like, I told my friend about it today, and I was just crying while I was texting her, because I just hated to have to say that, you know? I hated to have to say I had to term my pregnancy. It sucks, you know? It sucks. And then there's just a flood of other emotions. Like, there's tons of other things that I was trying to do, and those things didn't go through for me. And then I found out I was pregnant. I was like, yes, this is great news. And it just didn't turn out how I was hoping. So it's really hurtful, and it sucks. So, and even though I'm hurting, you know, I send prayers and good vibes to all you women out there who are struggling with something like this. You know, just be encouraged. Cry if you have to. Continue to cry, because crying is a way to purge, and it just releases all your stress and your anxiety and things of that nature. So don't hold that stuff in. If you gotta cry, just let it out, you know. So yeah, so my second baby, you know, it's in heaven now, you know. So, well, eventually. And like I said, I'm still pregnant, but yeah, I say it's in heaven, you know. So, but I hope that this doesn't happen again, and I'm gonna do everything that I can to just try to make sure I'm healthy and things like this don't happen anymore.